Welcome. Today's practice is all about strengthening our lower body, especially our hips and our glutes. Well, as we age, and if we have arthritis, our hips often become a little weaker in the joint, and we can help to counter that by strengthening the muscles around the joint, by strengthening all the tendons and ligaments around the joint that stabilize the hip. So that's not just the hip joint. The SI joint, sacroiliac joint, which is the very bottom of your spine that joins your spine to your pelvis, is also really important when it comes to hips because some of our movement comes from that joint. So all we need today is a block and a ball, and we will be on our feet for a lot of this practice, but it will be a little bit of a shorter practice and it will be a little different. So to begin, find yourself a comfortable seat. Make sure that you also have a pillow for your shavasana later on so that you can be comfortable. And let your hands rest down on your lap. Maybe close down your eyes or soften your gaze. And we'll just drop in for a short moment to center ourselves and begin our practice. Just start to notice the feel of your feet on the ground. And feel that sense of connection, centering, presence. Start to take some big breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth if you can. And after you've done 3 big breaths like that, let it go and come to a natural breathing rhythm that feels good to you. And in your mind's eye, visualizing a line coming from your low back over the back body, over your glutes, down the back of your legs, over the back of your Achilles, your heel, underneath your foot, and around to the top of your great toe. And the line continues over the top of your foot all the way to your ankle and up the front of your leg. Moving up through your inner thigh, and landing in your pelvis. And directing our focus, our energy, perhaps our intention to that area that you've mapped in your mind. And if there's an intention that you'd like to set for your practice, take a moment and do that now. And then keeping the eyes closed or the eyelids soft if you can, Draw two fingers, so your peace fingers, your index finger and your middle finger together, and place them between your brows. You can use three fingers if you prefer. Just place them between your brows, that space between your brows, and start to make a small little circle with your fingers, rubbing the skin, feeling the skin glide underneath. As you stimulate this acupressure point known as yin tang, yin tang. It also corresponds with the third eye chakra within the yogic tradition, a seat of wisdom and deep knowing. A little bit more pressure, and then release your hand and relax. Yin Tang is a really lovely acupressure point for calming, especially if you are having medical procedures or there's something going on that you know is going to be a little stressful for your body. It's a nice acupressure point to use anytime you need. And with that, open your eyes, let the light come back in. And we're going to take a tiny bit of upper body movement. And this is the only upper body movement you'll be doing today. So take your arms out really wide as you can, into a T shape, chest forward. And then take your hands, cross your right over your left and hug yourself. And as you hug yourself, draw your chin to your chest and maybe arch your back. Beautiful. And then the next time you inhale, open the arms, expand out, chest forward. And as you exhale, reverse the cross. So this time, left over right, hug. And we're going to keep the breath and the arms linked together, moving in your own pace. And we're going to do a few more of these little somatic breathing exercises. Exhaling as you hug yourself, inhaling as you expand your arms. Last two. Finishing with your arms wide open and then rest them down. Good. Rest your hands on your lap. If your shoulders feel a bit fatigued from this, take a few shoulder rolls. Some organic movement that feels good. And then we let go of the upper body. And from here, we come to stand. So if you can take your chair alongside the body to the right of your room, your block is going to be in between your chair and you. So you don't have to use a chair. You can use the wall for support if you prefer. So before we move into the hips, we're going to activate the receptors of our feet. So take your ball and place it underneath your right foot. And start with the ball. I'll just come back a little. So you can hold on to the chair for support and start with the ball underneath the middle of your foot. Keep a little bend in that knee. And then take some body weight forward onto the ball. Start to make circles in the middle of your foot. And then trace the ball up and down your foot, covering the whole of the sole. Good. Let the ball now come underneath your heel. And just keep it there, holding steady for a moment. And as we move through today's practice, if at any point you prefer to sit down and take a rest, please do. From here, start to trace a little line or a smiley face underneath your heel. So the ball of your foot stays firmly on the ground. It is just the heel that's moving over the ball, drawing this U shape along your heel, or a smiley face. Toes stay still, heel moves. And then finally, can you scribble? So imagine that you're trying to scribble or draw with your foot. Imagine that your foot is your hand and the ball is a pen. Can you scribble? You can move in any direction you like. Just move the ball up and down as fast as you can along your foot. Imagine you're drawing something. And that will start to build a little bit of heat along the foot. And then let it go. Come and stand. Tadasana. Notice any subtle differences from side to side. Does the ground feel different on one foot compared to the other? Does one foot feel like it's sitting flatter and in more contact with the ground? Good. So we're staying with this same leg, your right leg. So from here, just pop your ball to the side for the moment. We won't need it for about 20 minutes or 15 minutes. From here, make sure that you've got your chair for support. We're going to hop up or step up onto the block with your right foot. Now use your chair for support here. Keep a little bend in your leg that's on the block. And if you can, we're going to try to keep our pelvis as straight as we can here. So a lot of us will hike our hip up, especially if our SI joint and the muscles around it are not sort of firing as strongly as they should. So see if you can try to keep your hips parallel. From here, we swing the left leg. So this is a fairly slow, gentle swinging movement forward and back. Now you are going to build heat in your standing glutes here, so come off whenever you need. Otherwise, if you feel okay, keep going with your block swings. And if you feel very steady, then I invite you to take your hand off the chair, but it's by no means necessary. All right, we want to be safety first, so we're not falling, not today. Good, last one. And then step off the block. Come and step it out. Let go of the buildup of probably lactic acid happening along these big glute muscles here. And then when you're ready, step back onto the block. But it's a little different. We're going to do these step ups. So hold the chair for support as you wish. And we literally step up and step down. And we're going to repeat at least 15 of these. Good. Again, if you feel steady, you can take your hand off the chair. Otherwise, you don't need to. Good. Last couple. And then step off your block. You can either stay in your Tadasana, or if you need, walk it off. Walk on the spot. Same leg. taking one hand to the chair for support, bend your right knee and start to hike the other knee up towards you. Now you can take it as high as you like, or you can keep it low. But can you actively lift this leg up? Drop it down. Take the legs wide and step from side to side. Shift the weight. And we do that again. Slight bend in your right knee, hike the left knee up as high as it will go, maybe hand to knee. You can hold here as long as you can, let go when you need. If you're feeling steady and it's not burning too much, open the leg out to the side. Good. Hand to knee pose. Wonderful. Drop it down. Walk it off. Make sure that you have support to hold on to here if you need it. Same leg. This time you step your right foot forward and step your left foot behind. So it's like a little lunge here. Some dynamic lunges. So drop the back knee toward the floor and then come back up. Going only as low as you wish. You don't have to touch the floor with your knee. We're going to do 8 slow crescent lunges just like this. Well done. One more. And come to stand. Walk it off. You might want to have your legs a little wider. You might even feel good just to bring a little of somatic swaying movement here into the hips. Let your arms dangle, let them move naturally as your body's moving. And then come to stillness, feet a little closer, hip distance apart, feel steady. Notice sensation along the outer thigh, the side of the glute, the middle of the glute, and the low part of your back, all connected. Your SI joint is in this area. Notice differences side to side. And then before we move to the other side, take your legs wide as you can comfortably go. Point the toes out to about 45 degrees. We'll take a little goddess shape here. So you can hold a chair as well. Other hand can come up to this fierce goddess pose. And you start to bend the knees. So point the knees out. Sit as low as you like. And then come up. And we repeat this a few times. If you don't need the chair, then both hands can be at face level. Connect to your breath. Last one. Option to stay here in your goddess or straighten the legs if this is uncomfortable. If you're in your goddess, we're going to stay for a couple of deep breaths. And then straighten. Walk your feet in closer together. Your right leg steps forward, left leg steps behind. Point your left foot toes out away from you. So this is a bit like warrior one legs, except we're going to do pyramid pose for our hamstrings here. So holding onto the chair, one hand on the hip, both legs super straight. Start to hinge forward at your hips. And you will feel sensation along the back of your thighs. Hug your front hip back toward your body. So hug that front hip in. half pyramid. And then we can stay here, or if you wish, you can continue to hinge forward. And you can take your hand to the chair for support. Or if you wish, you can take your hands to the floor. The key is that both legs stay as straight as they can. And you feel this in the back of your front leg the most. Bend your front knee and slowly come out. No rushing. And step your feet together. Good. We'll repeat all that on the other side. Position your block in between you and the chair. And take your ball. This time we're starting with the ball underneath the middle of our left foot. A little bend in that left knee. A bit of pressure onto the ball. Especially if you have plantar fasciitis. It can be helpful to do these sorts of exercises. Just slowly put a little bit of pressure onto the ball and then ease off. Pressure on and then off. Weight forward and then back. Weight forward and then back. So it's not sustained discomfort. It's a little bit of pressure for a moment and then you ease off. And we do this to stimulate all these millions, if not billions, of receptors on our feet, which are responsible not just for sensation like pain or cold or heat, but they're responsible for balance, for how we perceive our body to be in time and space, proprioception. And then when you finish that, we're going to run the ball up and down the full sole of the foot. And make sure that you take it underneath the ball of each of your toes. So great toe, second toe, third toe, and all of them. And then land the ball underneath the heel of your foot. Toes stay planted. It's just the heel that moves and traces the smiley face. And this is easier to do if you are on a yoga mat or a hard surface. If you're on a carpet, it's a little bit more tricky. And then finally, can you scribble? Imagine your foot is your hand, the ball is your pen, moving the ball as fast as you can in any direction, drawing whatever you like. Build some heat in the foot. Stimulate different sensations, different sensory receptors, and then come to stillness. Yeah, just notice now for that sense of symmetry, equality between both sides. Does one side feel numb compared to the other? Grip the floor with all 10 toes and then release. I'll repeat this. Grip the floor with all 10 toes. Imagine you're trying to pick up a piece of tissue from the ground with your feet and then release. One more grip and then release. Pop your ball to one side for now. We come to our block. Stepping our left foot onto the block. Straightening the left leg as much as we need. Most of us might need to keep a tiny bend in that left leg rather than locking it out. You can maybe appreciate that when I keep a subtle bend in that leg of mine on the block, my hips stay parallel. But if I fully straighten my leg, I end up with this tilted gait or tilted pelvis. So sometimes it's good to do this in front of a mirror. So if you can see your reflection, you can keep your hips steady. And we start to swing the other leg backwards and forwards. And the reason we do this standing on a block is again to really challenge those proprioceptors in our feet. So at the moment, my hand is on the chair, we're compensating. The foot doesn't have to work too hard to sustain balance. But if I take that hand away, you immediately see I start to wobble because now my foot receptors have to start to work a lot more. Good, hop down, walk it off. Notice if one side block swing is easier than the other. And then we repeat when you're ready, keeping the hips as parallel as possible. We swing backwards and forwards. If you feel really steady on your block swing, if your hand is away from the chair, maybe your hands are on your hips, you can even take your legs out in a bigger circle. Good. And then hop off. Walk on the spot, shake it off. Again, tune into where you feel sensation. Is it mainly in the outer part of our thigh and our glute? Is it more here across our SI joint? Is your back compensating? And then when you are ready, come back onto your block. This time we're going to do our little step ups. So a little step up and down. And repeat about 15 times. Keep going. Again, hands can be on hips or on something for support. Good. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come off your block. Take your legs a little wider. Maybe shift the weight from side to side. Let your arms sway. And then come back to your steady standing mountain. And again, just sensing into the glutes, the back of the thighs, the outer hip, the low back. Maybe your calves are also speaking to you. And then we stick with the same leg. Step your left foot forward and your right foot comes behind. We take our static crescent lunge. So dropping the back knee toward the floor. And we do 8 of these, nice and slow. Keep the back heel lifted. Last one. And let it go. If you want to walk it off, feel free. From your mountain, we do a hand to knee shape. So feet on the floor, little bend into your left knee, hoik the right knee up toward your chest. Good. And we can hold here. as long as we feel comfortable, or maybe take your hand to the knee and open it out to the side. Excellent. If you're feeling really steady and balanced, you can practice taking your hand off your support structure. Again, each point of contact you remove makes your feet proprioceptors work even harder, makes your feet flexors work harder to keep you standing. Drop down when you're ready. Beautiful. We take our legs a little wide for our goddess, point the knees out, and we sit into our goddess. Straight spine. And we do this dynamically. Another 5 goddess squats. Last one. Brilliant. Bring your feet closer together. And one of the movements I quite like is to sway. Twist my upper body, sway from side to side. And imagine that you're just dispelling all the energy, all the stuff that you don't need. And just notice if there's a little bit of warmth in the body from those movements. Notice if your breath changed, if you started to, hold or stagger the breath. And then come back to stillness. We'll take our physiological breath. Big inhale through the nose and out through your mouth. Sigh it out. Let it go. 2 more times, just like that. Wonderful. From here, come back to your chair. There's options for a few seated little exercises. And then if we can, if it's available, we're going to come down to the floor to do a little bit of MFR work with our ball for our glutes and for our hamstrings. Now, you can target the glutes and hamstrings while you're seated, which I'll show you now. Otherwise, there are a few other possibilities that open up to us if we take this down to the ground. So on your chair, take your ball, shuffle your hips a little bit forward. Excuse me. So you're now in the middle of the chair. And take the ball under the meaty part of your bottom. So I'm just going to show you here. So your big glute maximus right in the center, as if it's where your jean pocket would be if you're wearing jeans. Right in the center of your gluteus maximus. And it will probably correspond with your sit bones. So it might feel a bit interesting. So you can stay as you are, shifting your weight from side to side, making the ball roll, massage. This is really good for targeting your piriformis muscle, which sometimes gets tight and it causes sciatica sensations down the back of your leg. And then come to stillness. The leg that's got the ball underneath it, see if you can straighten it now and notice the sensation change. If you need to adjust the position of the ball manually, do so. And then we hinge forward, and that might change sensation again. And come back upright. Remove the ball from that bottom. Just sit for a moment. Changes may be very subtle. There may not be any noticeable difference from side to side. With our practice, as we get more and more tuned into our bodies, we begin to notice the subtle differences. So don't worry if at the moment you think everything feels the same. And then take your ball underneath your other bottom, right in the middle of your glute. And again, you can start by shifting your weight. And then come to stillness in a point that feels a little tender to you, where you want to do some work. Straighten the leg with the ball. Maybe hinge forward. Feel free to adjust where the ball goes, maybe moving it slightly laterally to your outer glute now. And remove your ball. And you can stay seated. You're very welcome to stay within your chairs for the last part of this practice. Before we move into our meditation and our body scan, there is time to do a little bit of myofascial release for the lower limbs. So particularly the calf muscles and the hamstrings. So if you're comfortable going to the ground, take your block and take your ball to the ground now. Make sure that you've got your pillows and your blankets nearby, because after we finish this, we'll take a nice long lie down. So we're starting with our hamstrings. Starting with your left leg, it doesn't matter how your right leg is, you can bend it or keep it straight. The left leg, I'll move to the side, place the block underneath the back of your thigh and the ball on top. So you want to feel for that thick, big hamstring tendon, that big piece of meat that's going into the back of your knees. And go about halfway up your thigh and start there. Place the ball down. And all you're going to do is just move your leg from left to right. So you're rolling your leg over the ball as it massages your hamstring tendon. And as you start to feel a little bit more or less tender, then you can adjust the ball. And remember, when you first start putting your weight down on the ball, it may feel a little tender. After about 10 seconds, 20 seconds, feel free to move the ball to a new spot further down the back of the leg, working towards the back of the knee. And when you make your way to the back of the knee and you're there, then I would just recommend staying still over the back of the knee. So what we call the popliteal fossa. Hard to demonstrate. The back of your knee. Once the ball reaches there, just stay still. Maybe put a little bit more weight down or press your leg firmly onto the ball. And then we start to target the lower part of the leg. So from here, we're now moving down into the calf muscle. So directly below the crease of your leg, about 2 inches below the crease of your leg, you can take your ball there. And for me, I find balance by sitting back on my hands. However, if your wrists are a little sore, obviously you don't need to do that. You could make a fist with your hands and come onto balled up fists if that's available, or otherwise hold on to the other leg to keep you upright for balance. Yeah. Anything that will allow you to stabilize yourself so that the only part of you that's moving is the leg on the ball. Now, as we move into the calf, it starts to get increasingly tender. So the outer part of the calf, if I can just show you, this is my knee about 3 or 4 finger breaths down from my knee. So if you take your hand and place it palm down on your knee, that point there corresponds to a really often tender, but a good place for acupressure. So can you maneuver your leg so that the ball is on that area? And for me, the best way to do it is to bend my knee. So this is the lateral part of the knee, which is actually being stimulated now. And we all have different bodies. So find the best way for you to stimulate that. And if it just isn't available to bend the knee, you can also manually use 2 fingers. Find that point. So palm down. At the end of your little finger, there'll be a relatively tender point. This is one of our spleen meridians, and you can just stimulate it with your fingers if the ball doesn't work today. You'll feel your fingers moving over a big, chunky piece of tissue. Yeah. And once you've done that, come back to your calf. And we're going to work our way down the meat of our calf, these big gastrocnemius muscles, the big meaty part of your calf. Your ball will have plenty of places to work there. I quite like to shear the tissues, so I keep my ball still under my calf and instead move just my ankle. So pull the toes to your nose and then point your toes away. So that produces a slightly different myofascial release effect, as well as lots of clicking of my bones. Good. And then finishing off there, if you wish, you can take this down to just above the Achilles tendon. So the Achilles tendon on me is around about here. I don't want to be directly on top of my Achilles. Again, about an inch or two above. And that's the bifurcation. It's the point when all this fibrous tissue splits. Part of it becomes the Achilles tendon, part of it becomes something else. And again, for me here, I like to keep my legs still and just move the ankle. And then release your leg. Before you do the other side, you might just stop for a moment and check in. Any weird or wonderful sensations arising in the leg? And for me, I feel almost like a vibration. I feel like my leg that's been worked feels like it is got a slight buzzing quality to it. It's the best way I can describe it. And for you, it'll be different still. So when you're ready, you do exactly the same on the other leg. Starting up high, finding that meaty, big hamstring tendon in the middle of the back of your thigh. If you don't want to use the block, you don't have to. Most of us probably do need to use the ball and the block together. Rolling side to side. And people often ask me, why do we do different movements? So why do we sometimes go side to side? Why do I sometimes go circular? Why do I sometimes stay still and tell you to move your ankle? And the reason is because of the orientation of the fibers of the muscle and the tissue that we're working on. It's different. So the orientation of the tissue fibers changes as we move down the leg. So we adapt. And remembering as you get to the knee crease, then maybe staying still in the knee crease. And as you move down below your knee into the meaty part of your calf, you can roll side to side again. And don't forget to explore that lateral mark, that gallbladder meridian point, which is quite often tender in most of us. And you can either use your two fingers to explore it, or you can find the ball and bend your knee and put your ball there. And don't forget to continue all the way down the back of your leg to just above your Achilles. Only when you feel that you have done both sides the way that you want, and take yourself into a nice relaxing shape of your choice, whether that's on your back or your belly, legs up on a chair, rolling onto one side even. We're going to a short guided meditation. Letting the body come to a restful place where you can take up space. And you can let go of the movement part of your practice. And let your head be supported, hips and shoulders supported. And start to feel the heaviness of your body sinking to the earth. Notice your belly rise and fall with your breath. Notice the chest movement, rise and fall with your breath. And with each breath, feel the body sinking deeper and deeper. Jaw softening. Soften through your neck and your shoulders. Softening through your chest, upper back, your mid back, belly soft. Release all tension. Relax your hips. Relax the pelvis. Soften through the thighs, your knees. Relax your calves, feet. Your arms and hands. Relax and feel heavy. Relax the whole body. Relax the whole body. Coming back to your body now. Coming back to your body. And welcome some deeper breaths into your body. Invite some gentle movements of the fingers, the toes circling The ankles and wrists beginning to awaken. The senses slowly awakening. Perhaps taking a movement that feels good. You might hug your knees toward your chest. You might roll to one side. Or you might simply come into your seated shape. Drawing your hands to your heart center, bowing your head to yourself. In gratitude for the time that you've made for your practice today. In gratitude for your strong body, for the strength of your legs that carry you. It's always a pleasure to guide you. From the bottom of my heart to yours, I wish you a beautiful rest of your day. Namaste.